You rarely see me get angry because, well, I decided a long time ago that I'm not going to be an angry person. I observed my dad never having a temper or blowing up. Yes, he would get emotional, of course, but never beyond his control. At one moment, I did get very, very angry when I was in Africa. I did not lose my temper and start shouting or swearing or throwing heavy objects, but I got very, very angry. And I didn't get angry at, some African who's trying to, swindle me out of, a couple thousand Leone. No, it wasn't that. It was actually, I got angry at someone else on the ship, on Mercy ships. So as you know, I was the videographer on board the ship. So it was my job to seek out patients that who were being helped by Mercy ships, and I would interview them and see how they're progressing, or get some background on them, and try to capture the transformation story. And it was one of the coolest jobs ever because you really got to follow the excitement. And also it meant that people would show up randomly on the ship, and I would have to quickly get my camera and go out and film them, which was okay. It was a little exciting going out, getting my camera and doing that. Well, on one such occasion, I was quickly called to go out and film Abdul. And this is a safe name to say because Abdul is like the equivalent of Josh or Michael or some other very, very common name. Everybody is Abdul there in Sierra Leone. And so I got my camera and I went out, and one of my coworkers was like, "Hey, this is Spider Boy." I was like, "Spider Boy?" And she was like, well, it's that's what everybody used to call him because his legs were basically put on backwards, for lack of better terms. I'm sure there's a medical term somewhere where it's like your knees bend in the opposite direction. But he had this very, very painful deformity until he came to Mercy ships and they operated on him and turned things around, put his legs in casts, and this kid could walk. It was so cool to see this transformation, and this kid could play soccer now with his friends, and he'd get made fun of far less now, and he could go out in public. He still had a limp, and he still worked with his crutches. But what made me mad was, well, first of all, my coworker referred to him as Spider Boy, and I don't think that's a very endearing term. And I asked his dad, I was like, "So what's his name?" His dad did not call him Spider Boy. "Hey, this is my son Spider Boy." No, he said, "This is Abdul." I was like, "Hi, Abdul, nice to meet you. My name is Beau." And then my coworker was like, okay, let's get the shot. Let's get the shot. And in the videographer world, it's called you get the shot first, and then you do other things. The most important thing is getting the shot. And then everything else is secondary. The B-roll, the artistic footage that you want to get, you get the shot first. And this is what I thought was important. I had to get this. But how they treated Abdul was as if he was a subject for a video. They didn't treat him like a person. And this made me livid. I was so mad. And I talked with my coworker afterward. I was just like, "Look, this is never going to happen again. I'm going to get the person's proper name next time. I'm going to introduce myself, and we're going to go slowly next time. I'm going to make sure that he's comfortable on camera." And this is what tipped the scales, is when my coworker, in the heat of the moment, she was just wanting to get the shot. All right, okay, cool, whatever. No, not cool. Let's take away his crutches. And they're like, well, he's never walked without his crutches before. Oh, but it would just be so wonderful to capture it on camera, to see him walking for the first time without crutches. And they were like, okay, sure, I guess that's a good point. Well, we took the crutches away from him, and he could sort of walk, limping, but and you could give him a soccer ball and he could sort of play with it a lot more than he could before, for sure. But you could still sort of see him grimacing on his face, and he was not comfortable at all. And at that point, I just said, okay, that's it. I've got the shot. I didn't have the shot, but I was just like, I'm not going to deal with this anymore. You can give his crutches back. And we gave him his crutches back, and he could hobble around a lot better. But wow, livid, absolutely livid that they would put someone, especially a kid, exploit him like this in order to get the shot. Now, I should say that this was not a recurring thing at all. This was very, very out of the ordinary. And my coworker was caught up in the moment because we weren't expecting this kid to come on board the ship. We thought we'd never see him again after he got his surgery. So we actually got to see him improving slightly. And so she was just wrapped up in the moment, to be fair. And so normally we were very, very careful and always polite, always putting the patient first. But this one moment, I was just like, this will never, ever happen again. And I take that philosophy with me to this day when I'm filming people, when I'm videoing them. If I do not get the shot, I don't get the shot. I just don't. I'm good enough with editing, and this is me tooting my own horn here for a moment, but I'm comfortable. There we go, that's a nice word. I'm comfortable enough with editing footage that I can justify a lot of really bad footage. I can make it work, I can weave it in. So if I don't have the moment where the little boy's tear drops and goes down his cheek, you may think, oh, if only we had that moment. But it's not worth, exploiting this kid for the sake of capturing that moment. However, if you're comfortable enough with the kid or with the subject, then yes, you will capture that moment because they're comfortable showing emotion in front of you. But you have to start slowly. You have to introduce yourself. Hi, my name is Beau. What's your name? Ask them what their favorite ice cream is. Or my favorite question to ask the kids when I was there in Africa was, what's your favorite football team? Because they were so into soccer. And they'd be like, oh, and they'd smile and they'd say, Manchester. And I'd say, oh, okay, what is your position on the field? And they'd say, oh, center, I'm a center. Like, oh, okay. And I'd tell them about, our soccer, or rather lack thereof, here in America. But you see what I mean. You get on to their level. And then, once you're comfortable with them, then they open up naturally and organically. And then you get some unbelievable shots. And they're comfortable, and they're good shots. And they're the moments that you're looking for. But you never, ever force those moments. Whether it's videography, or whether it's journalism, photography, you name it. Put the person first. And I guess this harkens back to Jesus saying, love your neighbor as yourself.